All right, guys, this is my Week 18 preview for the Cincinnati Bengals versus Pittsburgh Steelers from Acrisure Stadium, and it is going to be a game that has a lot of stakes for both teams, depending on what happens in the Browns-Ravens game for the Steelers. For us, it's just about we have to take care of our business, and then the games that we have to worry about to get in, that comes on Sunday. So that's something like after the game that we worry about, but we got to handle business on Saturday, plain and simple. 8-8 Bengals take on 10-6 Steelers. Bengals have won 4 in a row. Steelers have lost 3 in a row. But this is always a tough game, regardless of what the records are, regardless of what the teams come into this game coming off of. It don't matter. It's always you can throw records out the window. You can throw losing streaks, winning streaks out the window because it's always a tough game. I mean, I can't say we've had the upper hand because clearly we haven't in this rivalry. But you can always expect a physical and tough game because this rivalry that's just what it embodies. It's not, you know, I would say the hatred for the Bengals for the Steelers is obviously stronger just because the Steelers have a lot more of the upper hands. But still, these teams are not very fond of each other, and I'm okay with that, especially as a Bengals fan. But yeah, I'm gonna dive into this matchup, but let's take a look at us, man. So obviously we are coming off of a big win in overtime against the Denver Broncos. I was actually at that game. What a game that was. I don't know if it's gonna matter this week because of, what the Broncos have to play against, and then Dolphins have to win, or the Dolphins have to lose rather. But for the Bengals, man, it's a must win. Obviously, you got to stay in the playoff race and keep your playoff hopes alive for at least another 16 to 18 hours, depending on what happens. And obviously, Joe Burrow leads an amazing offense. He's been playing incredible. Jamar Chase, he's been an absolute stud. Forgot to mention T. Higgins. Of course, he had a breakout game last week, so I expect big things from him this week, especially against a very, you know, sus Steelers defense, especially over the last few weeks and secondary. I mean, they haven't been having. I mean, I think Cam Sutton hasn't been having a great year. Obviously, Minka hasn't been having his best year. It's been a very up and down season for that secondary. So yeah, we've won 4 straight. The offense is rolling. Defense is actually playing a lot better. But at the end of the day, got to do it for one more week. Got to do it against a team that, ironically, was the last time we lost a game against, and that was in week 13 when they just beat us off our bye week. So it was unfortunate of a game, but the offense, there were some good things to take away from the offense, but the defense was atrocious at the time. So if they can step up against, Russell Wilson and that Pittsburgh Steelers offense, I have no doubt that we'll be okay because I believe in the offense. I believe that we can, do what we need to do to win the game, especially on offense. If it comes to a shootout, I like our chances, but the defense is going to have to show up. And that's just what it comes down to for us, man. But let's look at our opponent, obviously. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're battling for seeding. They are a good team still, even in spite of these 3 tough losses. I mean, look, I'll bag on the Steelers as much as anybody, but I will say this losing streak, while I don't think they're the best team in the AFC, I still think that they're worthy of being a playoff team. And you look at them 3 days or three games in 10 days rather against very tough opponents. I mean, Philadelphia at Philadelphia, and then you got of course the Baltimore Ravens who are they're obviously at their place. And yeah, the Steelers have had their way against them, but in Baltimore it's always a tough place to play. And then you play the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions. So 3 straight losses, yeah, but it's been very, 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 very hard of a schedule for them. Think this game is gonna be like, oh, they're losing. We've been winning like the last 4 games. I don't view it as like that at all. To be honest with you, man, I think that as long as T.J. Watt's on that defense, they always got a chance to slow the quarterback, the receivers down because of how much time you'll have in the pocket, and obviously that offensive line for the Bengals is not great. They gave up 6 sacks last week, and some of that I will put on Joe Burrow, but this week you gotta limit T.J. Watt. You gotta limit that pass rush. Highsmith can get it going as well. They're a tough group up there, man. And they're obviously their pass defense has been atrocious over the last like 5 games, and they've had over 109 quarterback rating, I believe, and they've thrown for only 4 interceptions while throwing 13 touchdowns. So for them, I mean, seeding is important. They come into this game, if I believe if they win, and if the Ravens win, they'll head to Houston. And honestly, for the Steelers, I think that's the best case scenario, and I think that's their best chance to get a playoff win because I just don't think Houston's that good of a team. I mean, you saw what they did on Christmas against Baltimore. I mean, the Steelers didn't play much better, but the Texans just look hopeless. C.J. Stroud does not look good, and Russell Wilson, I will say, in spite of what people are saying about him over the last 3 games, oh, go back to Fields and whatever, I think he's still worthy of being that starter. I know a lot of Steeler fans are not too happy with him, especially with the last few games, but honestly, I still think he's worthy of being their starter. And for them, if the Bengals can beat them, I believe they'll go to Baltimore. I would say that's a tougher game than Houston, obviously. And the Steelers would not love nothing more than to spoil the Ravens' chances at a Super Bowl in Baltimore. But they would also hate nothing more than to lose to Baltimore on the road. So, I mean, I guess I would have my money on Baltimore, especially what they did to the Steelers just a couple weeks ago. And so we can kind of screw them over in a way instead of helping them. But, you know, regardless of, screwing them or not, I still want to just end the season the right way, man. Ending with a win is always a good feeling. I mean, even last year when we played the Cleveland's backups, I was still proud of the team because they bounced back from that Joe Burrow injury. They added a 3-game winning streak in there. But, regardless if we make it or not, man, going up and playing against this team is never easy. So, just sneaking out of there with a win is something I'll take with me this season. But, you know, here's the keys to the victory for the Bengals, in my opinion. So, number one, you have to air it out against their weak secondary. I don't know if Beanie Bishop is starting this game, but I mean, he's been having a stellar year, I've heard, but Cam Sutton has not. So, take advantage of mismatches because at this point with our wide receivers, I feel like we're going to find a lot of those. So, we got to air it out. You got to give Burrow time, of course, because if he has time against this team, against this secondary, I have full confidence that we'll have a great game offensively again. And, you got to neutralize TJ Watt. I mean, we did not do that last time. He had a quiet year until coming into that game, and he had 2 big sacks and a fumble, I believe. So you got to neutralize him. You got to have some sort of plan for him. I know it's not easy. Playing against TJ Watt is no easy feat. But, and then regardless of how clean we played maybe in last game, you have to still clean up the penalties, the turnovers, everything, man. Because some of these teams that they take advantage of it, and I think the Steelers, especially against us, they tend to take advantage of everything. So, I mean, you have to clean pretty much all the mistakes that are out there and play with urgency. Play with a sense of purpose. Like, okay, well, we started off 4-8. Okay, well, let's now freaking get this other one off our belt. Let's rattle off a 5th straight victory. Close out the season with 5 straights. Feel good about yourself going into the offseason. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot more better if we win this game and we at least say, like, okay, at least we didn't get swept by the Steelers. Because I'm telling you, Bengals fans are not going to be happy if we end up losing this game. Just because, one, it's against the Steelers, who we all just don't like losing to. I know for a fact I just hate losing to these guys because they are the team that has just given us so much trouble and grief, and I just don't like them. And that's another thing I want to dive into. Just as long as these 3 teams win, we get in. That's the scenario. Like that's all we need. And Kansas City, they're playing their backup, so I haven't held too much hope. But like I said, just beating Pittsburgh would be a great feeling, even going to if it's not the playoffs, just the offseason. Jets, I don't know about them. I mean, they're playing Miami. Is Miami really Tua's coming back? Is Miami going to lose that game? I don't know. I don't think so. The Broncos are playing at home, and they're a 9-point favorite, 8-point favorite, something like that, just because of who the Chiefs are starting. So I don't know. I mean, that's why we needed this team, the Steelers, to, hopefully beat Kansas City so they had something to play for, so it'd be a lot easier. But at the end of the day, let's get our job done. Can you imagine if these 2 teams win, but we don't? I don't think any Bengal fan or anybody would be happy with that. So let's take care of business. We play on Saturday at 8 p.m., I believe. So it'll be a great, great test for us. And, like I said, I wanted to dive into this earlier, but we got to beat Pittsburgh. Got to be Pittsburgh. Beating the Steelers is very extra satisfying. And again, playoffs or not, taking out Pittsburgh Steelers is a win that I'm going to take with me in the offseason. I don't think you guys understand like how good 2021 felt, especially the fact that we just swept them. That I remember that gave me so much happiness. It was like, wow, like this team has caused us so much issues and problems and injuries and everything, not to mention like a specific game or anything, but they've caused us so many issues and really left us scars on our franchise. So just beating this team, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of anything, it'd be a pretty good feeling. But we can screw them over in a way as well. I mean, if we beat them, they'll head to Baltimore, I believe. Like they would avoid Houston, and that's, in my opinion, the Steelers. Like I don't like to say, I hate to say this because I want CJ Stroud to go far. I don't want the Steelers to go far, obviously, but I think the Steelers, they probably win that game because I just don't think the Texans are very good right now, and I refuse to just even consider the Texans a legit playoff team. It's hard because they just play in a weak division. So if I'm a Steeler fan, I'm hoping that's the case. I hope I win. It's gonna make it a lot easier than going up to Baltimore or even Buffalo or whatever. I don't know the different scenarios with the Steelers. Any Steeler fan can let me know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tomlin didn't say anything about resting the starters or whatever just to avoid rust or whatnot. So I don't know what his plan is for this game, but I assume everybody's gonna play. I know Baltimore plays Cleveland earlier this year, or earlier in the day. So if Baltimore wins, maybe they rest, but I don't see it regardless. I think that they want to go for a higher seeding as possible. And I think they understand. They're a smart team. So I think they'll understand, hey, if we win this game, we go to Houston. We avoid Baltimore. So it really depends. I mean, how if the Steelers are paying attention to that or not, I have no idea. But I could see them like, just trying to win just to have an easier path to get a playoff win. So yeah, I mean that's the goal for I'm sure many Steeler fans. But, for me, the goal, just beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Beat them, beat them, beat them, please. It'll feel great and something I'll definitely take with me to the offseason. So that will do it, guys. Finish strong, Bengals. Houday as always. And let's beat the Pittsburgh Squealers, as I like to call them. Yes, they are always going to be Pittsburgh. I don't care how good they are. I don't care if they're better than us. I don't care if they beat us 10 straight times. They'll always be Pittsburgh. But anyway, I appreciate you guys clicking on the video. I cannot believe it is the last Bengals preview in all likelihood that I'm going to be making this year. It's crazy. I'll have a season recap out, a post game out for the Steelers game. I just can't believe time flies. Like New England just feels like a month ago. Like it does not feel like the season's coming to an end. It's crazy. But that's just how football is, man. But I'll have, my goal and heading into 2025, I mean, that's my goal is to just make as many recaps as possible for, the weekly picks and whatever for the playoffs, regardless of if the Bengals are in it or not, as I did last year. And, I want to hit on a lot more Cavs topics as well. So hopefully they continue their hot streak. Obviously, they beat Golden State in the previous game. So it'll be an interesting 2025. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody out there. Have a great, great day and have a great, great new year. 2024 was very interesting. Hopefully 2025 is better. Cheers to all of you and cheers to a Saturday Bengals win. Houday.